Hello everyone, and welcome to today's openMAINT webinar. Just a quick introduction, my name is Grazian, and I'm a developer of the openMAINT project. Today, I'm going to be talking about openMAINT's Corrective Maintenance Module. But before diving into today's argument, let's just take a quick review of openMAINT's roadmap regarding webinars. So, the first webinar was a general overview of the application with a focus on the inventory. Today's argument will focus on the Corrective Maintenance Module, while the next one will tackle the following arguments: preventive maintenance, financial and logistic management, energy and environment aspects, and GIS and BIM tools. We are very excited for what's coming ahead, and we really hope you follow us along the way. Just a quick reminder before starting, if during the webinar you have any kind of questions, please feel free to use the chat on the right and write your questions down. At the end of the webinar, we'll try to answer them all. And now, without much further ado, let's get into today's argument. What is the purpose of the corrective maintenance process? Well, we worked really hard trying to develop what we think is the best version of the corrective maintenance process inside the newest version of openMAINT, and we think you're going to like it as well. The corrective maintenance process has been thought out to be used by companies and users alike to handle unexpected and unscheduled corrective maintenance requests and failures that generally occur in the everyday life of a company, such as the employee's computer breaking down, the window is stuck and won't open anymore, the air conditioning is not working properly and it's getting kind of hot in here. Now that we know what the main purpose of the process is, we can go ahead and look more at these configurations. These configurations allow us not only to define who should handle which process, but they also allow us to set criteria telling us which ones are being taken care of on time and which ones are not. Also, we are able to set categories for each process. This is useful for reporting and also for telling us maybe what kind of problems occur most often. This way, one can take action if a problem occurs maybe way too much and try to fix it by changing some of the company's management. The first configuration we are going to be talking about is the categorization definition. Inside openMAINT, we are able to create a two-level categorization. We are able to create multiple categories, and for each category, a number of subcategories. This data can then be used to classify the processes. The next configuration is the team assignment criteria. Inside openMAINT, we are able to create a large number of teams. Each team can then be linked to multiple users that have access to openMAINT. This way, when a user logs into openMAINT, it will only be able to see the processes that are assigned to one of its teams, and not the ones that are assigned to other teams. This allows for a very flexible management that can fit the needs of most companies. Also, we are able to set different categories for each team. So, for example, if we want a certain category to be handled by one team, we can specify that by setting a configuration. For example, a process that is categorized as plumbing and sanitation will most likely be assigned to a team that is specialized in plumbing. If a process is categorized as electrical system, it will probably be handled by an electrical team. The next configuration is the server service level agreement, also known as SLA. We are able to create a large number of rules that can be set for each of the main statuses of the process, meaning assignment, execution, and closure, maybe the most common one for this type of configuration. We are able to set an expected duration in the following units of measurement: hours, days, weeks, and months. Also, we can set the timer start type, which can be the opening date of the process or the starting time activity, meaning when the activity starts, to which the rule refers to. Also, the timer can count the system time or the working time. Lastly, we can set a process priority to the rule so that when a process is classified as critical, for example, the correct SLA rule will be matched to that process. Now we can take a quick look at how to do this live in a live demo. Okay, so as we can see, there are already a couple of categories, but we can go ahead and create a new one. We're gonna set the code to be E, and then the name general category. Okay, we can go ahead and save. To this category, we are now going to add a couple of subcategories. We can easily do this by going here. The code will be O1 and the name devices, for example. We're going to add another one. The code will be O2 and the name will be furnishing elements. Okay. We could go on and create other ones, but I think that to give an idea, this is more than enough. Inside the team class, here are all the teams inside the openMAINT right now. We could go on and create another one. We have to set a description and maybe some other fields. So for example, I will call my general team. I will select the company and set an email. And then go ahead and save. Okay. Now, as mentioned before, I can go on and create some configurations to specify maybe what team should handle my new categories. So for example, I'll go on and set the general category, the new one that I just created, and then select the devices subcategory. I want this type of category to be handled by the team I just created. So I think I selected the intersite and then general team. This is the active field allows to set if the configuration is still active or not. If it were to be false, the configuration would not be active anymore. Okay. And also the last one that we talked about is the maintenance SLA. And as we can see here, there are a couple of ones created. So we could just take a look at the critical one. The process is, of course, the corrective maintenance. The step is the closure one. The expected duration is 2 hours. So when a process is critical, it should be handled in at most 2 hours. The timer needs to start at the opening date, and we should calculate the system time. The process priority is critical, and of course, it's active. Okay. Now that we've seen our possible configurations, we can go ahead and take a look at the general overview of the workflow. As seen from the image, the roles that are involved in this process are the starting roles, which can be configured to be one or more than one, the maintenance office, the team, and the supplier. All the steps can be configured to be handled by whatever role anyone wants, and it's easily configurable. And by default, this is how the workflow works. So as you can see from the diagram, the maintenance office handles the more administrative steps, such as assignment and accounting. The team handles the execution step, and the supplier the estimates one. Not all the steps are mandatory to complete a process. The most simple and linear path is the following one, the one you can see now in red. So the first step is the opening. The user has a problem generally and opens the request so that the problem can be fixed. The assigning step, handled by the maintenance office, is the one where the maintenance office steers the process in the right direction, sets its categories, and assigns it to the right team. Then there's the execution step, where the team actually takes care of the problem. And then lastly, there's the accounting step, which can eventually even be skipped, where the maintenance office checks what the team has done, how much was spent, and they can approve or reassign the ticket depending on its outcome. If a request were to be more complex, multiple subtasks can be opened. So from a complex request can be divided, can be split into multiple jobs. By doing this, the main request will be completed only when all the subtasks end. Also, it is possible to ask for estimates to different suppliers. By doing this, you are allowed to choose what the best option can be for a specific problem. Now that we've seen the general overview of the process, we can go a little bit more in depth and see all the steps of the process. We'll do this by trying to open a couple of processes. First, we'll start with the simple linear path that we just talked about, and then we'll try a couple of more complex ones. I'm going now to the corrective maintenance page, and I'm going to start a new corrective maintenance. All the fields that are red are the ones that are mandatory, which means that they need to be filled out in order to be able to execute the process. As you can see at the bottom, the execute button right now is not enabled. It will enable itself once I complete all the fields. I'm going to choose the requester. I'm going to choose myself. A short description. Maybe, for example, the printer isn't working. The type of request, maybe it's damage. And the site, let's choose Tecnoteca headquarters. And the priority, medium. I can put in some notes. For example, I need to print some documents. I can choose the category and subcategory. In this case, I'm going to go with plants and devices and then electrical. And also, this depends on the level of data that is present in the database. If I want and if I know where my printer is, I can go on and select the floor. I'm going to choose the first floor, the room, and my printer. If someone were not to have this data inside the database, all these fields are not mandatory. So the only mandatory one is the site field regarding the location of the problem. I can go ahead now and execute the process. Okay. As you can see now on the left of the page, there is a new badge icon with 1. If I click here, I can see all the emails that have been automatically generated. In this case, an email was sent to the maintenance office to notify them that a new request has been registered inside the application. Inside the body of the email, we can see some of the data that I inserted previously. Now we are in the assignment step, which is to be handled by the maintenance team, and I'm going to assign it to a team to do the job. At the right of the page, we can see that there are different widgets with different buttons. The first one is the upload document one, where we could upload things like images, documents. I can choose wherever I want. Then there is the activity report, which is a report that basically summarizes all the things that are happening with my request. So I can see at the top, we have all the summary and the data that I inserted previously. So the opening date, the requester, the priority, its categories. I can see that there are some fields that are not yet filled. For example, the team, because I have not yet assigned it to a team. And also the performed activities are empty for now because nothing was done yet on this process. And also the details. We'll see further along that some of these fields will get filled out. I can go on now and select my team. I'm going to choose General Services and then execute the process. If I see here, once I selected the team, there is also the team calendar widget, which tells me what other jobs the team has to do. So, for example, this team had a job yesterday to do. Okay, I can now go on and execute the process. We are now in the execution step, which is to be handled by the team. And the team can close the process once the job is actually fixed. At the right of the page, we have also here other widgets. The upload documents is the same one as before, so I can upload other documents to my process. The activity report is the same one as before. Right here, I can see that the team has been filled out. There is then the accounting widget, which allows the operator to insert costs into the process, whether they be material movements or labor movements. So for example, I can add a new object that is necessary to fix the problem. I can either select it from a price list or enter it manually. Let's say that here I'm going to select something from a price list. What I need is a toner. Some fields get filled out directly from what I selected, and I can set the quantity, let's say 1, and the VAT rate, 22%. I can go on there and add also some labor. Here I'm going to select also from a price list, electrician hour. I can set the quantity both manually, so by doing this I'm going just to be able to set a quantity, for example 1, but I could also do this by specifying a time range. So for example, from 16:00 to 17:00. This by default will set the quantity to 1. The VAT rate, I'm just going to choose 22% also here. Okay. The warehouse widget allows us to keep track of the consumables used in the process. There is also a button that allows us to check if the consumable is in stock. So for example, I'm going to choose Chalma House and check if there are dust masks. I can see there are 100 available, and I can go on and add a new movement. The date is automatically filled with today, and the source can be chosen. I'm going to add that I used 1 mask and save. The difference between these two widgets is that the first one actually takes care of things that need to be purchased, while the second one keeps track of things that I already own and I'm using. We are going now to set an outcome, which can be positive or negative. In this case, let's say they fix the problem, and the execution end date. Let's put in now. Okay, in the notes, I'm going to say that the problem has been fixed. Okay. Also, in this step, a new email was generated. This time, the email was generated to notify the team that a new job has been assigned. Inside the email, there is also the activity report attached, which is the same one as we've seen from the widget before. Okay, I can go ahead and execute the process now. Okay, we're now in the final step of the process, which is the accounting one, and the maintenance office handles this activity. At the top right, we see the same widgets as before, upload document and activity report, but there are 2 new ones. The first one is accounting, which has a summary of what the operator previously inserted. I can go ahead and change if I want something, or delete or add even new rows. Let's say that, for example, the operator set the VAT rate that is not correct. I can go ahead and change it to 10%. And the accounting recap, which is a report that shows all the accounting movements that are linked to this process and also its total. So I can see right here how much has been spent. The maintenance office can approve the ticket or take it back to assignment because maybe something was not fixed correctly. Also, I want to point out that at the bottom of the page, there is the register. where you can see all the notes from the previous steps, and also, of course, who wrote them. I'm going to approve the process and close it. Also, just before closing the process, I want to point out something, that inside the email that was sent to the maintenance office, there is also the activity report. And in this case, though, the report is going to be filled. Okay. The report can be downloaded and then saved. I can go ahead now and close the process and approve it. The process has now been completed, and I can see it from here. Okay, so this was the simple part of the process. But let's say now that we have a more complex request, and we need to split it into multiple subtasks. So for example, I'm going to choose the request of always me, the short description, the room is flooded. The type is damage. The site, I'm going to choose always the Tecnoteca headquarters, and then a priority, which is high. I'm going to choose a category. Let's say plants and devices. And this time I'm going to choose plumbing sanitation systems. And also let's choose a room in which the problem occurs. Room 3. At the assignment step, I can now choose to not assign the job directly to one team, but to manage some subtasks. So this is what I'm going to do now. And press execute. Okay. I'm now in a totally new step as before. It is also to be handled by the maintenance office, but here I can go ahead and create multiple sub-requests. There is the widget on the right, add subtasks, which allows me to do just that. I'm going to create two new jobs here. So the first one is going to be fix the pipes that are flooding the room. I'm going to set the priority to be critical because it's very urgent, and assign it to a team. Let's say hydrocluster help desk. I'm going to choose again the room and then save. As previously said, once I create sub-requests, I can assign them to totally different teams, and if wanted, I could also be able to change the category and subcategory. In this case, they are correct this way. Okay. Now the second one is going to be clean the room. I'm also going to note that wait for the pipes to get fixed. Okay. The priority this time I'm going to set it to medium since it's not that urgent, and then assign it to general services. I'm going to save also this time. By the way, I also want to point out that I was able to choose two different priorities. The first one, fixing the pipes, is very urgent, so it needs to be done very quickly, while the cleaning one can be less urgent. Once I save my subtasks, I'm going to choose the execute subtask actions. Also here, there is a new field, joint accounting, which allows the user to choose if the accounting should be done jointly on the main request, or it can be done both on the sub requests and the main request. In this case, I'm going to choose the joint accounting to be false, so that the accounting can be done also on the sub requests. I'm going to now execute. And as I can see right now, two new subtasks have been created. The first one is the critical one that needs the pipes to get fixed, and the second one is the medium one for the cleaning room. If I open one of them, I can see that they are already in the execution step, and they are assigned to the correct team, the team that I chose before, which is here, Hydro Cluster Help Desk. From this point on, the process is basically the exact same way as previously seen. The only difference is that the main request will not come to an end unless all the subtasks are completed. Okay. Now, the other option is to ask for estimates to different suppliers. So we are going to create a new process. The requester is always going to be me. And the short description can be the door handle is stuck and the door won't open. Okay. The type of request is damage, and the site is Tecnoteca headquarters, with the priority, let's say, medium this time. I'm going to choose a category, environment and people, and a subcategory, maintenance of furnishing elements. Okay. Now that we are at the assignment step, the maintenance office can choose to ask for estimates, and this is the action that I'm going to choose right now. So now on the right, I can see there are some new widgets. The first one being the select suppliers, and the second one the estimates list. First of all, I'm going to choose the action that I want to do in this step, which is request for estimates. And then I'm going to select suppliers. Here I can see that there are a couple of options for my suppliers to choose from. I'm going to choose all three of them, and let's see which one gives me the most convenient estimate. The estimate list is for now blank because I have not asked for estimates yet. When I'm going to request for estimates and then execute, I can see that now 3 new estimates processes have been created, each one for the supplier that I chose in the widget before. So I'm just going to open one of them, for example, and here the supplier can either send an estimate or reject one. Let's say that I want to send an estimate. There is the accounting widget, which is basically the same one as we've previously seen. Here I can add a material accounting movement. In this case, I'm not going to choose one from a price list. I'm just going to enter it manually. So for example, door handle, because the door handle is broken. Quantity 1, and let's say the price is 50 euros. I'm going to choose the VAT rate to be 22%, and also how much the labor costs. So labor, let's say to fix the problem, I'm gonna need 2 hours, and the unit price is going to be 45 euros. Oh, maybe a bit too much. Okay. And the VAT rate always 22%. Okay, I'm now going to save my estimate and send it to the maintenance office. Okay, this is the first supplier. The second one, let's say that the supplier is going to send also the estimate. We're always going to add a new material accounting movement, door handle, quantity 1, and let's say this time it costs 75 euros. Okay, well, the job is going to cost 50 euros. Okay, I'm going to save it now and then send the estimate. Now the last one. Let's say that this supplier is not actually interested in this job or does not do this kind of job, and it's going to reject the estimate. Maybe put in some notes. I don't fix doors. Okay. So Now we can go ahead on the main request and look at the situation. So now all I can do is accept the estimates and execute, or assign them. And I'm going to execute. And then I can select my estimates from the widget. As I can see from here, I have all three estimates. The first one is the rejected one, so I'm not able to choose it. And then there are the other two. I can go ahead and look at the estimates and review them. Let's say I'm going to choose the most convenient one, which is the second one, and then save. Now the supplier has been chosen, and I can assign it to a team, let's say general services. And then I'm going to execute. Now the request has moved on to the execution step, and as before, this is basically the same workflow now as before. So now that we've seen basically all the paths inside the openMAINT application, there are only two variables remaining. So we're going back to the presentation. Okay. The first variable being the mobile app. So inside the mobile app, there is a custom page that is designed for operators to be able to manage the execution step. This is being thought out because operators maybe often work directly on site and don't have access to a computer. So this can be very useful for them to be able to register accounting movements, upload documents or images directly from the site, or also do everything that is necessary to finish their job. The second variable is the self-service portal for non-technical users. This is basically useful for the users that don't have direct access to the openMAINT application. From the self-service portal, they can open new requests and afterwards follow what their status is. So if they are being executed and if they've been completed. Okay. Now that we've talked about everything that there is to know about the Corrective Maintenance Module, we're going to be talking about the information summary regarding the corrective maintenance. Inside the newest version of openMAINT, there is an interactive custom page that is basically divided into two main parts. The upper part itself, it is also divided into two parts. On the left one, we can see a table with some summaries regarding the number of open processes. And on the right one, there are different dashboards divided by categories such as status, building, category, priority, and SLA. All the data from the dashboard is generated real time, which means that the data is always up to date. This can be very useful to have a quick and intuitive look of how the processes are doing and how they are distributed. On the bottom of the page, there is a grid that shows all the processes where I can quickly view their data. And also, if I want, I can update them and maybe execute them without having to leave the custom page. We are now going to take just a quick look at it in action. So if I go from the menu inside the Corrective Maintenance Summary, I can see that here on the left, there are some informations about the operator who is logged in right now, which is me, and some informations about the tickets. So for example, there are right now 11 open requests. At the right, I can see there are different dashboards. Right now, the selected one is the status one. And if I hover with my mouse over the dashboard, I can have some more insights about the data. So for example, there are three processes that are in the accounting status, which is about 20% of all my processes. I can then change the category to be building, category, priority, or SLA, which shows me what processes are on time. In this case, there are 11 on time, and what are late. On the bottom of the page, there are all my processes from before, and I can go ahead and edit one if I want to. So for example, I'm going to close this process with a positive outcome right now, without having to leave the custom page. I updated quickly the process. and that's it, basically, for the custom page. At the top right, we can see that there are two fields, from and to, which are two dates that filter all the data inside the custom page. If I want, I can change them, of course, and then recalculate. Okay. And lastly, the last part about information summary are the reports. And there are quite a wide range of reports that allow us to overview the most important data inside the corrective maintenance processes. The first one is the activity report, which is the same one as we've previously seen. And this is a general summary of everything going on in a specific process. As you can see, there are the data, description, assignment, and also at the bottom, we can see the accounted movements connected to that process. There is also the accounting recap. We've seen this one before also. And this one lists all the accounting movements that are linked to a specific process. At the bottom, also, we can see the total amount that was spent with this process. The next one is the maintenance accounting overview. And this one lists all the accounting movements divided by the different sites inside the openMAINT. So in this case, there are two sites, and for each one, we can see all the processes with all their accounting movements. The next one is the maintenance SLA compliance, which shows all the maintenance requests that have been opened in a specified time range, divided by compliant with SLA or not compliant with SLA. If they were to not be compliant, it also shows by how much they are late. Also, the last one, we can see the maintenance statistics, which shows all the processes that have been opened in a specified time range, divided by different categories, for example, subcategories, priorities, SLA, and also team. For each process, we can see the execution time that was spent for that process to fix the problem. I would like to now thank all of you for the time you've given me today, and I really hope you enjoyed your time. And now we are going to give you what our contacts are. The first one being the openMAINT website, the official website. The second one is the newsletter for all the latest news. The third one is the openMAINT official Twitter account. Then there's also the forum and our email for special inquiries. Now we're going to be answering the questions if there are any, and we'll be back shortly.